What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, your weekly look at what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheehan, and I am here with my co-host, Dave Martin Swagger. Dave, what's going on, man?
How to do, son? Happy St. Patrick's Day weekend.
Yeah,
How's it going?
pretty good. I had a pretty low-key St. Patrick's Day weekend. I saw you in Boston Friday night, and then I got out of Dodge before my old ass got ripped apart by the Young Bucks in Boston. How was your weekend, though?
It was good. We were supposed to see Conor McGregor at the parade, but
Parade.
he didn't. He was taken off the parade route like 3 blocks before he got to us because of fans not following the barricades and going crazy about it. So shocker there, but still a good
He's
time
quite the character.
regardless. Yeah.
Yeah, Conor McGregor. God. Anyways, we got a lot to talk about. We're gonna be talking a little bit of music and then some movies. I spent a lot of time on Netflix this past week. So
Yeah.
we got Triple Frontier, Arrested Development, and also Gloria Bell, which was a quite a pleasant surprise. Or I don't know about surprise, but quite a pleasant film. Oof. Anyways, before we get too far into it, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, go to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod and give us all the follows and give us a 5-star rating review on iTunes to help us out. Zacari. Dave, tell me a little bit about Zacari, because I mean, this is his first project. We know him from one song before this?
Yep. No, that's it. Zacari signed early this year to TDE. Obviously about a year and change. Actually, no, it's more now. Damn came out in 2017.
2017.
Yeah, and he's the chorus on Love. Of course, was a big song off Damn, and that was really anyone's first exposure to him. And I guess it makes sense that he stayed in house with TDE, but I was never anticipating his debut record or anything, this new EP, which is a quick 20 minutes or so. But, I mean, my takeaway like going in was like, I think like the TDE co-sign, like signing of artists kind of has like lost its luster, at least in my opinion. I think like originally it was J-Rock, Kendrick, Soul, and Q. And like that was the group. And they announced the first two new ones, 2013, Isaiah Rashad and SZA. And like neither of those like hit off right away, but quickly became really big, especially SZA. But since then, like, is anyone really looking out for Lance Skywalker or Serve or Reason or now Zacari? I don't think so. So I don't think that it's the co-signer once was, but nevertheless we still listen to it because he was signed. I think that's probably still the reason we checked out this tape, but or EP. But I wasn't too keen on it. I thought it was just kind of dull, honestly. What was your take on it?
Yeah, I didn't find it super interesting. I thought there were a couple songs that stood out. Don't Trip, I thought was probably my favorite. And then 10 out of 10, like the drums in that really just like brought me in, but it sounded very samey to me. It's interesting because you mentioned Love by Kendrick, and damn great album. We talked when we reviewed it how Love is just a great love song. We didn't expect that from Kendrick, and reading up a little bit on it, Zacari actually pitched that song to Kendrick. It was a song called Lovely. Kendrick reworked it a little bit, but that was Zacari's brainchild initially, which is it's pretty impressive that he brings this song to Kendrick that then gets put on the album, and it's a very good song. But there wasn't anything that level on this, and I think when I was trying to think who do I compare Zacari to, the first person that came to mind was 070 Shake, actually. You know how 070 jumped on Kanye's album for was it
Ghost Town.
Free? Yeah, Ghost Town, thank you. And kind of stole the show, and people walked away like, wow, that 070 Shake sounded great on that. But 070 Shake has such an interesting voice, and I think Zacari, for a lot of R&B artists, just kind of blends into the crowd. And there's not anything about him specifically at this moment, especially from this project, Run Wild, Run Free, that makes him stand out in any way.
Yeah, as I see a lot of people describe the voice like, oh yeah, it's these great pipes. And I'm like, no, it's a good voice, but again, like I think if the music is not that lively for this kind of R&B, you're just gonna lose people. And like I thought Midas Touch, which I think was the lead single, I thought that song was fine. And I didn't think anything was super offensive, but I just don't know if it stands out as much, which again is disappointing because, as you said, he definitely stood out with his first impression on Damn. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that it's been this long, almost 2 years, for that debut project to come out, I don't know, that's kind of questionable to me as well. Like, I mean, I didn't think he was on tour with Kendrick for a lot of this time, so, but still, you would think that they've been rushing to get this EP out. I don't know. I'm curious to see what's next. Obviously, again, with more music, it's tough to know how many of these songs are brand new. A lot of this could be old or rework things. The
Yeah.
way Love was reworked, so I don't want to judge it too harshly, but I was certainly underwhelmed.
I think I would like to see Zacari find the producers that The Weeknd worked with on like Glass Tables or something like that, or his earlier stuff, or even his most recent, um, EP that came out. Something that's just a little bit like darker, and see if maybe that can add a little bit of bite to him. Because I think if he had that Gestafelstein, to give a call
I was
back to
gonna say,
last week, get that Gestafelstein production, he might actually be able to make
interesting.
something a little bit more interesting. Just a thought. I also thought when I was listening to him, I hear Weekend Light, so I was like, maybe if he steers into that a little bit, I don't know. Anyways, Zacari, underwhelmed. But Dizzy Wright, Nobody Cares, Work Harder. This was an album I was pleasantly surprised with. I don't really know much about Dizzy Wright, so my expectations going in were pretty much none. And right from the first track, I felt like there was a groove to this album that really just kind of took me along for the ride, and I just like flowed with it. But help me understand a little bit who Dizzy Wright is.
Yeah, he's from Flint, Michigan. I believe he's 28 years old now, but he's been around for a while. I think I first started listening to him like 2012, 2011 maybe. Um,
Mhm.
and he was actually an XXL freshman way back on the 2013 cover, which is notable because that cover was probably one of the strongest ones they ever had. Travis Scott, Joey, Q, Soul, Action Bronson, Logic, Chief Keef, tons of huge names that are all active right now. And Dizzy Wright was picked among them. And he kind of like busts on the scene early as a conscious rapper, someone who's definitely a thoughtful guy. And I think that easily comes across on this album. But he like first got his big break because he was signed to Funk Volume. He was signed to Hopsin. And rap fans know that Funk Volume honestly fell apart. Hopsin certainly had a fall from grace critically. But Dizzy seems to still be cool with some of his old label mates. DJ Hoppa pops up on this. Jaron Benton has a feature. They were both Funk Volume artists. And I think, the title, Nobody Cares, Work Harder, I think that's kind of just a way to explain his career because he's never gotten super mainstream despite making lots of good songs, lots of good tapes. He had a good Logic feature a while
Mhm.
back, but he's never really gotten any bigger than he was a few years ago, but he's just kept grinding. And I think that's kind of a cool, a simple but cool, onus to have about your career. And yeah, I thought this was, I don't want to say it's more of the same negatively or anything, but I think like it's what I've come to expect from what Dizzy Wright does. But I actually haven't been checking out a lot of his recent music. So I was happy that I saw this was coming out and gave it a chance because I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think he, as an artist, I wrote down nothing really stands out about him, but it just feels so quality. I think in terms of, I don't think there was one song on here that I was like, wow, that was absolute crap. But there weren't a lot of songs that I was like, oh man, got to put that one on the playlist or got to save that one for later. Um, I think I think he's kind of in that middle tier of rappers right now, and that's an okay place to be. Um, but I'm sure for him, it's disappointing to feel like he's kind of stuck in a sense. And I
Yeah.
think the album title, alludes to that.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, my favorite track, which is also his most played song on Spotify, is called Kill My Kindness. And you hear a song like that, and you just, the dude definitely oozes potential. But I'm not really sure what it was. Like perhaps it's, I don't want to say it's writing because he clearly has a smart pen, but maybe it's just
Mhm.
his vocal pattern hasn't caught on with anyone. I don't know. He's don't want to say like sleepy, but he comes across as a softer spoken guy. Um,
Mhm.
and his first early hits that start getting like blog attention again were conscious tracks, so I guess that kind of makes sense. But yeah, again, I think this is solid, and if you've never listened to Dizzy Wright before, I think you can just jump right in this if you so choose. But I also don't think this will change his current predicament. This will probably get under listened to just because that's kind of been his wave this whole time, unfortunately. But
Yep.
yeah, I think you can pop in and there's some thoughtful tracks, some groovy beats, and yeah, I think he'll just come out the other side and just keep it going. I think that's what's going to happen with this.
It's funny. We just mentioned Zacari, and there were two singles dropped this week. Schoolboy Q and Anderson .Paak both dropped them, and I'm my hype level for those two projects is pretty high right now, especially Schoolboy Q. Like,
Oh
can't
yeah.
wait to see what he comes out with. Um, you know, Dizzy Wright isn't going to come anywhere near those guys, but this is still a solid listen. If you don't have anything else to check out on your New Music Friday, you could do a lot worse than Dizzy Wright. Any songs here that stood out to you or that you want to give a shout out to before we move on?
I like the Jerry and Ben feature on Keep It 100. I thought that hook was a little weak, but I thought those verses were actually pretty good. And even the first song, Self Love is Powerful, Mozzie, another, he's almost like West Coast Dizzy, where he's been around, he's a little older, but he's been around a long time, and like the real heads like know about him and like big him up, but he's never gotten super big either. So that's kind of a interesting, I guess, collab there for the meta reasons. But yeah, I think you just jump around. There's plenty here.
Yeah. Self Love is Powerful is probably my favorite. Shout out the Real Heads.
Hmm.
Love those Real Heads. Why don't we jump to some TV real quick? Arrested Development, season 5. Whew. Okay, so we're to start with Arrested Development. What's your relationship with Arrested Development?
Uh, yeah, God, thinking about Arrested Development 2019, spoilers is kind of going to be like the whole topic, I think. But the first
Yeah.
3 seasons, this what 03 to 06 or whatever it was on Fox before it got canceled. Like, I think anyone who knew of Arrested Development back then loved the show, and definitely thought it was ahead of its time, in terms of callbacks and meta references, and obviously it's quite the meme factory now. But it was just like a really smart, obviously hilarious comedy that existed within the studio 30-minute space, right? And I got to it late. I didn't get to it. Obviously, I was too young to really watch a show like that when it was on at the time, but I watched it on Netflix like tons of people did, in lead up to the 4th season that came out in 2013. And that definitely was underwhelming to, I think, almost everyone who saw it. The issue with that is that, coming back to 2013, the casts are all more famous and they can't all record in this shoot in the same time. So they made that choice. Hurwitz made that choice to shoot bigger character driven episodes, and it was a swing, and it definitely missed. But I mean, he tried, I guess, to put out more of the show. But yeah, I looking back, if we never got season 4, season 5, and the show was just like a meme, that Obama, please bring it back. Like if we didn't have these last 2 seasons, I don't think anyone would cry. But it's a weird story, man. There's a lot to it. What's your relationship with the show, though, or past or present?
Yeah, similar to yours. I was like tangentially aware of it. My siblings definitely watched it. I'm pretty sure my brother is a fan of the show, and he was watching it when it was on TV. But I was like, yeah, Arrested Development. I think it was on Fox, and I remember coming on like right around when The Simpsons would come on Sundays, and I was like, who watches this? Like, I couldn't really understand it at the time. Watching it I probably came around in 2010, 2011, sometime like that, with good friend of the show, Sean McKenna, just blown away by the writing. It's one of the most well written shows maybe of all time. Just like you mentioned the meta references, but just like there's layers to their jokes, especially by like season 3, where they're calling back to things that happened in episode like 2 of the series, but there's like 3 different jokes tied to it now, and somehow it all makes sense and it all feels like it's held together, even as they're like upping the ante on these like ridiculous scenarios. It's absurd by the end of it. But man, getting to these more recent seasons, you mentioned season 4, swing and a miss. Season 5, the first half was dropped sometime last year? Is that
Yeah, we
right?
never got to it. Dropped
I think
in
so,
May,
okay.
and like I know I was
Yeah.
away, and then by the time we could have talked about it, Kanye had dropped, Pusha T and Drake were beefing. Like, there's a lot of other stuff going on, and
Yeah.
the buzz was muted, so we never really
Mhm.
addressed it. In fact, I don't even think I was aware of these second batch of season 5 episodes until recently. But yeah, disappointing.
Yeah. It's disappointing. I think there's two parts of it to me. First of all, like it definitely seemed like it still struggled with people not being able to all be together. Now it was more cohesive than season 4 for sure, but I think Portia de Rossi's sparing use in the season was very evident. I think the second in these last episodes you see her maybe like twice, and um seems like she really got sidelined, but also it just felt so, I don't know, tonally off in a sense. I'm not really sure exactly how to describe it, but it just didn't seem to capture the magic that they had in those first 3 seasons. Even though like the absurdity and the scenarios were kind of there, it almost felt like it got a little too far from the core in a
Hmm.
sense. And they do come back together as a family by the end of it, but it's just this feeling like these ridiculous scenarios in the past always felt just hilarious and ridiculous, and now it just felt like what's going on? Like, is it Oscar? Is it George Senior? Like, I really just like started to almost get confused with some of it at points. So I don't know. It was disappointing, but still, I ride for the show. Like they could put out season 6, I'm still gonna watch it. I think the writing is so clever, and they still have some hysterical moments, which I definitely want to get to. But give me your opinion of season 5, the second batch.
Yeah, I think it's just the fastball is just off a little bit. It's like,
Mm.
and then like you said, this is the structure is more back to the old days with this new season. The
Mm-hmm.
cast is definitely closer or more present together, I guess, than season 4, definitely. But I just think some of like the absurd jokes or storylines references, and they just don't feel as fresh as they once were. I think part of that is like we've now seen things, other shows are inspired by this, like HBO's double, Veep in Silicon Valley specifically, but tons of other stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just seeing this now, it just doesn't feel as special. And I think there's still cool stuff. Like I thought, like when maybe pretending to be an old person, like getting the benefits of that senior community she was in, like
Yeah.
that was really well done. That was funny. But then stuff like
Mm-hmm.
Job and like his sexuality like comes in and out of it. I just feel like they never really committed to using him well. I don't know. Um, but
Although
also
I do have to.
all the Trump references for Portia
Mm,
de Rossi's character, like I mean, literally her campaign sign is in the same font and color scheme
yeah.
as the Trump signs and stuff. But like like obviously a big storyline is them building a border wall for the southern border with
Mm-hmm.
Mexico, and it just felt like it was, I guess, too late because the show's technically taking place in 2016. But I don't know. It just, I guess, seeing Trumpian people, which is what the
Mm-hmm.
show is always lampooning from the start, seeing the blues now just wasn't as entertaining to me in a post Succession world. I guess I don't know. Um, yeah, I wanted to be funnier. I just felt like it was just too inconsistent with the writing this time around.
Yeah, I do want to say Job's sexuality. I didn't mind that as much. I do feel like they struggled to commit to it fully at times. But that the moment when he goes into the closet converters and just tells his entire story about his hookup with Tony Wonder was maybe the funniest moment of the entire season. Just like seeing him sitting down talking to these guys that just redo closets and like spilling his whole thing, and then he has to buy the company to keep them quiet. Just hysterical. Such a great idea. Jessica Walter. I also felt was a little underutilized. Lucille in the first 3 seasons is like one of the sharpest, most cutting, and funniest characters I can really remember from TV. I mean, the memes and the gifs made about Lucille are like
Yep.
legendary, and I really feel like she wasn't given as much to work with, and she almost just felt more of a piece to the story about George Senior and Oscar than anything, and I feel like that's really underserving such an awesome character.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it also comes off the heels of all the Jeffrey Tambor stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get kicked off Transparent, and then it coming back up when they were doing press for the first half of season 5 last year, and Hale and Bateman, they all kind of like quickly like defended Tambor in like kind of like a weird way, like dismissing the the abuse that he laid on Jessica Walter, and it just seemed like they everyone involved really fumbled how that went.
Mm-hmm.
So I think some people in general are just kind of have a bad taste in terms of even watching Jeffrey Tambor be so present. We
Yep.
mentioned movies like last year, like Death of Stalin. He's in that. It's not a distraction per se, but I think when the Arrested Development team and cast is so involved in like the issue, um, it also feels like it's just coming at a bad time.
How did you feel about Michael Cera in this?
It just reminds me again that I wish he was in more stuff. Like
Yeah.
I know he does a lot of like low key comedy stuff and like theater stuff, but like I just wish he was like more active in the mainstream because I love his comedic timing. I always have, but it also feels like he and Shakwat, they've definitely like just kind of grown past these roles, you know,
Mm-hmm.
as part of the Bluth family. And like Jason
Yep.
Bateman, I feel like he can come in and out of this role fine, and even Will
Yeah.
Arnett, I suppose too. And I think it's actually really refreshing to see David Cross come back and do this too. But I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, Sarah and Shakwa, I just felt like they're just, I don't know, not given as much as they usually can. So I mean, it's funny,
Yeah.
but like the whole thing with Fake Block was a really important storyline in this season, and there was really Michael's real uh, involvement was connected to it as well. I just don't know if it again was written well enough to be as an integral to the plot as it was.
Yeah. Definitely. I think the writing lacked in this season. Even though it's still amazing how they're able to intertwine so many things and come up with such ridiculous scenarios. I don't know. Any other thoughts on Arrested Development season 5?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind if they just let it die here. To be honest,
Mm,
there's been no word as of yet if there's going to be a sixth season. Have a hard time imagining they would get both Tambor and Walter to both return.
yeah.
Um, so I think the odds of it are not likely in general. Um, but yeah, it's just I think the time's come. We comedy on TV has evolved since then, and we have similar shows like Succession. So I think it's okay to let the show die, but I'd rather that happen than it just keep having these diminishing returns and get away from the greatness of the last decade.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see them making another season, but you never know. Would have said that probably 7 years ago when Netflix put it back and then Netflix revived it anyway. So you never know what's going to happen with Netflix. Just like I didn't know Triple Frontier was something I needed. I knew I needed one Frontier, maybe even a double Frontier, but a triple Frontier. God damn. JC Chander uh, putting out this action thriller war survival movie. I guess is how you want to describe it, with a crazy cast. Oscar Isaac leads it, Ben Affleck, Charlie Hunnam, Pedro Pascal, and Garrett Hedlund rounds out
Yep.
the five who they're going to. Do we know what country it is? Colombia? Going to Colombia?
Somewhere in South America. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's explicitly said, which that might be a problem for some people. That would kind of getting thrown in there, but yeah, somewhere down South America. Yeah, don't really know. Andes Mountains are involved, so that can narrow it down, I guess.
And they're trying to basically steal money. They're going to kill this drug lord and take his money, and they're going to keep it all for themselves. At least that's the switch up. And
Mhm.
they're all ex-military, all ex. I think special ops was really it.
Wet
And
work.
yeah, they're the last of a dying breed.
I'm a
Last of the
warrior.
warrior. Yeah, freaking so cliched and macho. Was this a good movie, Dave?
Um, Yeah, I think it is. I think for the type of movie you're going to watch, action heist thriller.
You're qualifying it.
Well, I am, but I think it surprised me with the fact that the heist happens in like the first third of the film, and that
Mhm.
the survival aspect I think was quite unexpected. Um, and I think I think the narrative, I think that the plot can kind of weave in and out for people. I think your temperature may vary on that. I think there were some things that were like a little confusing in terms of like just the geography, for example. It's like, why is crossing this mountain so important? How did you guys get here again? Why do we have to go on this side of the continent? I don't understand all of that just from the cursory watch. But again, I think overall, seeing all these actors that most people like be together and just play military men. I don't know. I was amused the whole time. Now, what did you think?
I was pretty lukewarm on it. I mean, it's enjoyable, and I would say it's fine. I didn't find all the performances to be all that great. I mean, Oscar Isaac, I thought was pretty good. His role, he has probably the most. I don't know about the most to work. I guess maybe the most to work with
Yeah,
just because he has the most
he
lines.
carries
But
it.
yeah, I mean, I also think uh, it's like seeing him like silently just like recognize like how much this is going to shit was like pretty funny and entertaining. Not that this is a funny movie, but it was just like funny watching his face be like, oh shit, like
Hmm.
how did we get to this point? I thought Ben Affleck was kind of just like whatever. Just it was just funny seeing him like flip that switch. He's like that. He's like that person that just doesn't know their limits, and like he's like, no, I know I should stay away from this. Then like gets one taste, and he's like, give me all of it. Like I need
We
all
have
the
more
money.
time. 15
Yeah,
cushion.
yeah. You've never missed an out in your life. Oh, give us a 15-minute cushion.
Hard out.
Yeah. Um, it was fine. Charlie Hunnam, I mean, nothing kind of role really. I guess he's supposed to be
Yeah,
like the moral compass of it. I don't know. Pedro Pascal, like, really? I don't know.
I like Pedro Pascal because I thought his guy was it Catfish Fish, the pilot. He was more of a
Yeah.
clearly comes across as one of the most competent people in the crew and the most level-headed. And the fact that he was more reserved, I think, was a cool touch because that's obviously most people know him most famously for playing Oberyn on Game of
Mhm.
Thrones, very flamboyant, showy role. So that's just a little different from what you expect. I guess more in line with his character on Narcos. But
Mhm.
yeah, Hunnam disappointed me just because I think the script didn't do many favors, but also he just kind of wavered in terms of his performance. Something he's off to do sometimes, where his accent comes in and out, or his inflections, and like, it's fine, like it's good enough. But again, I thought Headland was better. I thought in general the stunt casting of them as brothers was like really smart and
Mhm.
surprised we haven't seen yet. I like
Yeah.
that, but Headland again like kind of on this like, bit of a heater around since Mudbound came out, and
Yeah.
just doing all these movies where he just kind of gets to be like a weird character actor.
Yeah.
Um, the Affleck is interesting because when he died, and he's the first one to die, the only one to die
Mhm.
in the crew, and didn't see that coming at first. But then I'm thinking back, I'm like, oh wait, why would he do this darker, uh, dour performance coming off Bruce Wayne in like Gone Girl? Oh, that's why, because he gets to take the death, take the
Take
L.
the headshot.
You know, um, I think like the
But
politics of like the murder of innocent farmers and whatnot. I definitely your mileage may vary on that. To be blunt, also
there
watching a mule fall off a cliff is tough hang. But then seeing all the money float was kind of cool. So I don't know. I think there's cool set pieces. I think the action though, I was maybe a little underwhelmed in the action. I was expecting more of it,
right?
to be honest. And the fact that we have the heist happened so early, as I said, and then it goes into more survival. I thought the survival stuff was cool, but probably not what everyone thought we were getting.
I mean, so Catherine Bigelow is a executive producer on this, and it almost was like too Zero Dark 30ish, where like it was like surgical. These guys running in,
It's a good
and
point.
they're just like like one shot. It's like I want my action films. I want bullets like cutting up the walls. I want to see like some crazy things. And really, they were just like super competent soldiers who knew exactly what they were doing. And even when Affleck got shot in the head, it was just because they were like having this conversation and like trying to like then they get in this gunfight and Affleck thinks he takes someone down and the like one person wasn't able to get in position in time, I guess. Like I don't know. Just they were almost like too competent for this to be like super fun, I think. And that's the thing about the movies. I for an action movie or war movie, it wasn't very fun, which is fine. Because, but I don't know if it had enough to say that justified it being as serious as it was.
Yeah,
I think that's go ahead.
yeah, I think that's spot on because like I was actually like stressed as hell watching it. Like I thought it was
Yep.
definitely engaging on like the thriller angle, but you're right, it didn't really have enough to say, and thus tonally was just a little off at times because it didn't commit to being a Sicario, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like topics of morality are littered through that, and like a lot of
Right.
people didn't like Sicario do, but again, it still tried. But
Mm-hmm.
this one, again, there's not enough humor, or I guess the wisecracking comes in and out that it just kind of comes off as a bit of a dark hang, you know.
Right.
And I still liked it because I still thought it was pretty engaging. But yeah, I think that we could have tweaked that somehow. I think you could actually really level it up because even though what we got, I mean, they don't make action movies of this caliber, this scale, that aren't part of James Bond, Mission Impossible, or Fast and Furious. We just don't get
Right.
those kind of movies. So the fact that they were able to make something that clearly looks like it costs some money, you know, they're crashing a helicopter in this, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
like and on location, it looks great. I think there's some really cool shots of the vistas and landscapes and whatnot. But you know, at least Netflix, you know, I think they should get credit for just having the kudos to pick this up or at least give it some kind of financing. Because again, we're just not going to see stuff like this that often.
Yeah. I'm glad this movie got made. And, thinking about what it was trying to be, I think it was trying to be a little bit Expendables, a little bit Zero Dark 30, and a little bit American Sniper, in terms of like what it was
Sure.
trying to say and what the point of it was. And I don't think it really hit on any of those. And, and obviously, God, I'm forgetting it. Lone Survivor is like the easy
Mhm.
survival war film comp for it. Um, I, I mean, I think it's a good movie. And I'm excited that Netflix is able to make something like this, and I just want to see them keep putting out these sort of movies because even if this one isn't a total hit, it's a movie that if I had like 2 hours to kill, which never really happens, but if I did, I wouldn't mind throwing it on, just being like, okay, here we go, like let's just enjoy Ben Affleck and Oscar Isaac like being crazy for a couple hours. So,
Yep.
72% Rotten Tomatoes. I was surprised it was that high.
Yeah, it's a good point. I would love to see this in the theater, but again, that's just not realistic anymore.
Yeah, it was out for 1 week before it's on Netflix, so it wasn't what I wasn't gonna make it there. Something I did make it to the theater to see was Gloria Bell, Sebastian Lilo's reimagining of his 2013 Spanish film Gloria, and this movie is sitting at 96% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. I mean, it's Julianne Moore, it's John Turturro, and that's pretty much it. Like Julianne Moore carries this thing uh, solely on her dancing feet, I suppose.
Mhm.
Um, I I found this movie to be very interesting for what it was because when you go to the movies, a lot of times you think about these big stories. I mean, we talk about Star Wars, we talk about Avengers Endgame, and the Oscars usually rewards these smaller story films, the ones that are more human. And this is maybe one of the most like human stories I can remember seeing in a movie theater because it's pretty much just about like a middle class divorced white mother who has some bad relationships and is just trying to like figure out how her life got to where it is. And it's like a very normie type story, but it got made and it was actually pretty interesting, I thought. What did you think of the film?
Yeah, I think again the small scale that you just referenced definitely stands out right away. But also, Sebastian's camera techniques, they're very simple. I mean, we get close-ups of her and of Julianne Moore in the car,
Mhm.
and you know when we're having conversations again, it's a lot of like close, you know, upper thirds of people's bodies. There's really not any like zoomed out shots in this. It's just really personal film, which makes sense because it's a story just about uh, the mundane aspects of humanity, I guess you could say. I don't know. Um,
Yep.
And like, I actually haven't seen either of his two most recent movies, Fantastic Woman, which won Best Foreign Film 2 years ago, and then Disobedience, which I know is on Prime right now, which is with Rachel McAdams and Rachel Weisz. And those were put out on Bleecker Street and Sony, but this new one, Gloria Bell, is on A24. So he's definitely been bouncing around his distributors, which is, I think, interesting. But this is also like the first one he really put out post the Oscar win. And I think the fact that you're going to remake your own film like 5 years after you've put it out is quite the ballsy move. But I think it was pretty cool. I mean, the way he talks about it, Julianne Moore really connected with him and connected with the film, and that they really like seemed like they were a match made in heaven to Americanize this story once more. And I'm really glad, because I haven't seen the first film, Gloria. He's from Chile, but yeah, I think they're getting an English version of this, get it on something as prestigious as A24 is really cool. And yeah, as you said, I think Moore is awesome, and and the writing is just really smart. Even the pace of the story, I think, has great payoffs, whether it's obvious stuff like what happens with the paintball gun at the end, or even stuff that maybe is a little eyebrow raising, like the Sean Astin cameo. Overall, though, I think it's just a really pleasant movie. I actually went in with not watching the trailer at all, so I really didn't know much about it other than that it was like a smaller scale story. And I'm glad I didn't really know much, because I think it just is really engaging right away, which says a lot about a movie this small in scope.
It's funny. As I was watching, I was like, "Is that Sean Astin?" And I was like, oh, I can't remember the last time Sean Astin came in and played like a sleazeball, which is basically what his character is in this. And
it's a good point. Yeah, he was like really genuine, honest guy in Stranger Things, right? That's the most recent high profile thing.
I just he always kind of comes across as like the nice guy who always trying to do the right thing. And this, he's like a married guy who's picking up this woman in Vegas. Like, goddamn. But yeah, Moore was awesome, and I really liked Turturro's performance too as a fuckboy Arnold, who is basically just like he's this I guess later aged, senior. He's not really a senior. He's
I think he's in his 50s. He said, did they say that? Not sure.
I don't know if they said an age, but recently divorced man who has ex-wife and two daughters who were very, very reliant on him, seems like for mental health issues, and he's kind of sucked into this dependent, unhealthy environment, I guess they came from. And he falls in love with Gloria and wants to be with her, and then just ends up leaving her pretty much every single time. I hated his character, but I thought Turturro played it really, really well. And I feel like everything he does at this point is just quality. Like whether it's Night of, he made a reference recently on, I think it was at least one podcast, that we're gonna see the Jesus Man again from the dude. What was the Big Lebowski? I'm sorry, and I just think this guy's been around for what 20, 30 years acting now, and
easy
puts out quality constantly. Like he's probably one of the most underrated actors of his generation.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, like I think when he burst on really quick with like Quiz Show back in like '94, like obviously he's became a big top talent right away, but it seemed like it was kind of going off the rails for Turturro, when he was playing Agent Lennox, was it the Sector 7 guy in Transformers? That was really really out there role, and it looked like he was having a good time with it. But it wasn't until the Night of back in, was it 2015 or 16, where it's like, oh, this is a nice meaty role for someone of Turturro's caliber. That's nice to see. And then have this come back, Gloria Bell. I think this is a very inspired choice, because again, like Julianne Moore, I think she's pretty well established and respected in terms of like leading actresses. But Turturro, he kind of comes and goes because he's been around some time, and we kind of forget about him. So I think I was really happy to see him in this, and I like this run he's going on of showing, I got these chops. Let me get one of these prestige roles.
Yeah.
Which was obviously cool to see if you're just a fan of his. I mean, is there anything else that stood out to you about this movie? It's weird. It actually premiered at Toronto Film Festival back last fall. So a wait in terms of getting a theatrical run, but it's actually A24 put out in a lot of theaters, so hopefully it'll get a lot of eyeballs. It's been out a few weekends now. But anything else stand out to you about it?
Well, you mentioned the camera. Natasha Brayer's cinematography I thought was really good. It seemed like it was a lot of like handheld camera work. And she also, I thought, had just some really clever shots, whether it was the way that she framed shots at the dinner, for Michael Cera's birthday, where Totoro was kind of on the outside of the rest of the family together, or just like out of frame at points. And I thought that was really well done. And also her, like, a lot of the scenes in Vegas stand out, or a lot of the scenes in like the clubs when she's dancing, or even the last scene where she's dancing at the wedding, I thought were all just like really well done and really well shot. I keep thinking about that scene where she's coming up the escalator in Vegas, and it just like shows like all the reflections going on and on, which I thought was pretty interesting. Any shots that stood out to you? I know you like the camera work as well.
Yeah, I really liked I don't know, just the way he would Lelio would cut the singing in the car like
Yeah.
really abruptly, and because those are close ups, then we obviously would switch to a new shot. I thought that was really effective. But yeah, I think everything about the Caesar's Palace scenes was really effective because obviously it really kind of captures everything, like the loneliness, everything that's kind of being meditated on the whole time. Really kind of shows you how sometimes in places as seemingly grand as Las Vegas, where you're going to find stuff out about yourself like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually surprised about how much nudity there was for someone like Julianne
Yeah.
Moore, but it's commitment, so I respect it, obviously. Also, Michael Cera, second time we're talking about him today. I kind of liked him as this quietly angry son. Like he just was like really like, I don't know, just like fed up with his situation. Which to that I say, don't have kids until you want kids. That's my take on that one. But
Yeah, I thought he was good. And I really liked that commentary. Um, I really liked Holland Taylor in this, who played her mom, and I thought the scenes between them were just stupendous, especially when she does come to Vegas and saves her. It was just like such a great commentary on how like your mom never stops being your mom, and uh, I just thought she was really wonderful. Um, you know, I think about that dinner scene and the tension in that. You talked about the tension during Triple Frontier. I felt more tension watching that scene and just like all like the dynamics at play of it, where like my stomach was like in knots and I was like squirming in my seat because it was so uncomfortable. I
we
thought
were
that was
in
a really
love.
I should have been there. I should have been there. Like, just so many like ridiculous like parts of it. Yeah, I mean, it was just really interesting and engaging throughout. And I also really liked the final scene. I thought seeing Julianne Moore's like just acting through her face in that, she comes out and she's kind of just like miming along, and then you can just see her like stop for a second, like processing things, and then just kind of like let herself go. And I thought it was just really an awesome way to end the movie and a great note to kind of like put the cherry on top of the sundae, so to speak. I thought the soundtrack of this was really good too. A lot of like 70s hits, 70s, 80s, and I thought it played into the movie really well. I don't know. Anything else that stood out to you? I think we covered a lot of it.
Yeah, is this your favorite movie of 2019 thus far?
Well, if it is, I have a feeling it'll be short lived because Us is out next week.
Right, of course.
Yeah, it's probably better than Captain Marvel for me. Yeah, I don't really know if there's any other movies that caught my
High Flying
attention.
Bird, perhaps.
Yeah, no, I think I go with this one, but it's gonna be short lived. I could potentially see more get a nomination for this though.
You got to figure A24 will definitely push
Yeah,
her performance in that campaign. I mean, obviously, I don't think they would try and get anything really more from this, perhaps Turturro as well. But I think it'll come up again, her performance, no doubt.
definitely. Definitely check out Gloria Bell and Triple Frontier and Arrested Development because you probably have Netflix and you can check those out easily. What are we going to be telling people to check out next week? Us for sure is the big one.
Yeah, Us is the big one. I mean, other than that, I mean, we'll see what we get to. Rich the Kid's dropping The World Is Yours 2. That lead single Splashin', I think it's really hard, so I'm actually looking forward to this project. X Hex is dropping. Jeremy Lewis is dropping. That movie Hotel Mumbai with Dev Patel is getting well reviewed. I'm not sure if that'll be in wide release this weekend. We'll see, but I'm looking forward to that at some point. And yeah, I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if we get some in Ghost Drop because it's a bit of a quieter music weekend, and that's going to stop soon in April. Some bigger releases come out, so always pay attention, right?
Always pay attention. Always keep your eyes open. Always be closing. I don't know, one of those. Anyways,
ABC. Yeah.
always be hitting that subscribe button on Nowstalgia Pod, whether it's on YouTube, soundcloud.com/Nowstalgia Pod, on iTunes. Just be subscribing and sharing, giving us those 5-star rating and reviews. We appreciate you. We're the last of a dying breed, Dave and I. We're warriors, so help us out here, folks.
I'm a warrior.